We have lights, we have the microphone. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. Closing day of XR Fest. We had a whole week of meetings, talks, keynotes, and experiences of virtual reality. And today, to close this session, we have a meeting on art and creativity on the digital arena. And in this room, we have a lot of talents with us today, so I feel very small of having so many artists here with us. So I'm going to explain a bit the menu for the night, for the evening. We will start with a presentation by Rewind, or Oliver Kiverwhite, who's with us today, straight from the United Kingdom, and he will tell us how his work is regarding this prestigious study, laboratory of ideas that I guess many of you were able to enjoy many of the experiences from the opera of Puccini, Madame Butterfly, and he just mentioned that it was adapted for Magic Leap, those wonderful Googles that allow to turn around the singer and all that. We will have a round table on the second part where we will be able to talk about creativity, where digital tools will condition or not creativity, how we evolve regarding artistic production, both in visual arts and music in this case, and all the part of heritage, how we preserve that works, and those are industrial property rights, which at the end of the day, with networks and media, we have to share those rights with big companies and a lot of fine print. We will finish today with a wonderful ending, because we'll have the artist Chagall, artist residing in the United Kingdom, born in Holland, and she creates all her music according to movement of her body with mime gloves, and it's quite impressive to watch, and she will explain how this works. This is all about the presentation. I remind you, you have hashtag for today's lecture, XRFest. If you are following us from home or any place in the world, you can send your questions as well through social media, through this hashtag. And I believe that this is all for me, and now is Oliver Kiverwhite's turn from Rewind Study.
Yes, technology works. So, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. This is my second time in Madrid ever. I came here to launch a car 5 years ago for Lexus. It was a very different experience. Suffice to say that I have learnt a lot since then. I should start by introducing myself. I am Oliver Kibblewhite, or in full, I am Oliver Ashley Tiro Cottrell Kibblewhite. My parents, which we'll get to in a minute, like names. They like quite a lot of things, actually. And I'm head of special projects at a virtual reality, mixed reality, augmented reality production studio called Rewind. We make content, digital content, for anything. The output medium isn't necessarily important, whether it's a 2D screen like this, or a virtual reality headset, a mixed reality headset, or an augmented reality headset. Objectively speaking, it's the same technology that drives it, and it's the same skill sets. So I'd like to start with a quote, an idea. Attention is one of the, if not the most important human commodity. So I'm going to endeavour to make the most of your attention. Sorry if I get it wrong. People talk a lot about XR technology, and you've probably heard quite a lot over the last couple of days. But people say that it will solve many problems. It'll allow you to travel to the stars, replace the broadcast industry, digitize humanity, kill the smartphone? I think so. Save the planet? No, not fix democracy. That's beyond the pale of this technology. But this is where I come from. I was born on this bus. This is me, and that's my boss, who's also my big brother. We had, shall we say, an alternative reality. This was school. I didn't go to primary school. I went to secondary school when I was 11 because I wanted to, because I was tired of only seeing these like 10 kids and some associated parents. I wanted a little bit more friendship. I wanted to expand my circle. Though it's worth pointing out that this is what Christmas parties sort of looked like for us, which was, again, loads of people, but a completely different environment. So when virtual reality became to the fore and people were getting excited because we could suddenly do things that were different or a little bit challenging before, it's kind of my life and kind of feel at home there. So to go back to the company, stop talking about me. We make immersive experiences, as I said. We produce them for every medium going. And I'm going to talk you through a couple of the projects this evening. And we'll see how we go. That's probably the last 3 years worth of work. It's been a busy few years, but enjoyable and challenging. We've done quite well out of our couple of years. I've been for the company just over 6 years now, and from when I joined, we did visual effects. So when people started getting excited about 360 video, that was easy for us, because all that visual effects is stitching videos together. So for us, that was an easy gateway into the industry. And for visual effects, you build everything in 3D anyway. So again, we had all the skill set ready to build real-time environments. We just changed our rendering pipeline from 1 image a minute to 90 images a second. How hard can it be? The answer is quite hard. So we work across the gamut of technologies. The Beyond bit's a little bit interesting, and I might talk a little bit about that later on. It's a new medium. Humanizes and connects us with technology like never before. Don't agree with this. Technology is still technology, and it requires people to make it interesting, useful, or something that you'd want to pay attention to. A box with a blinking light is just a box with a blinking light until you give the light meaning. We like to say that we're not doing storytelling anymore. I'm standing on stage telling you a story. You are listening. You're passive, you're receptive. But with real-time mixed reality, virtual reality, and augmented reality technology, we like to talk about story living. You get your own point of view, your ability to interact, to affect the story. Again, this is, of course, all dependent on the content that's been created, but it gives you a different way of interacting with a story. You're no longer just being told. So I'm going to talk you through 3 projects today. The first one is Home, which is arguably speaking our most successful piece of work to date, and probably our first big project. I'll show you a little trailer, and I'll talk you through some of the bits and pieces. But it's all about space. I'm a massive nerd, like beyond all sensible proportion. When I found out that there were 2 space shuttle launches left, I took out a loan and booked tickets to Florida. I was 19, didn't really have a job, was in university, didn't have any money, but I knew I wanted to go and see a space shuttle. For me, that's pornography. But it's all because of this guy, Tim Peake, the first British astronaut in a very long time to go to space. The BBC obviously produced a lot of scientific programming around this big event. Lots of trying to encourage kids to get into science education, to try and promote space travel. And the R&D department of the BBC came to us and they went, can you make us a version of the spacewalk that he's going to do around the outside of the International Space Station? And we said, yes. Can we have a 3D model of the space station, please? And they go, no. Can we talk to someone who's got one? No. Why not? It's a secret. Okay. So we built the whole thing from photos. Because we have artists, chuck them a stack of photos and they'll build whatever they see. And in theory, this is what they see.
Sunset in 10 seconds.
It's okay. My heart rate was going nuts the first time.
Give us a wave, EB2. We're all looking up at you.
This is still available for free on both Steam and the Oculus Store. So if you have a headset, if you have a friend with a headset, I highly recommend giving it a try. It's slightly unpleasant at times because there's no up and there's no down, because space is unpleasant. It has all the same problems that going to space does. You lose your frame of reference, you feel a little bit queasy. When we were developing this and we were talking to the European Space Agency, we're like, we can't make this not be slightly uncomfortable. And they went, good. Space is not comfortable. Space wants to kill you. It will try to kill you. So it was nice to know that the unpleasantness that was generated was correct. So remember my brother? That's this guy. He's having the best day. He went to the Future of Storytelling in 2016 in New York and met actual real-life astronauts who told him that what he'd made was good. Nicole Stott said, as close to the real thing as you can get. I think she was just being nice, but it's still nice to hear. She'd done her time on the space station. She wasn't ever going to go back. She'd done her missions. But it gave her... She took the headset off and she had glistening eyes because it gave her the feeling that looking out of the window for the first time in space gave her. And to know that I had a part in creating that and that I might also have an idea about what that looks like is pretty cool. It's also better than the NATO training simulator. The next thing I'm going to talk about is a much more light-hearted project. Who here is aware of the TV show Silicon Valley? HBO TV show? Anyone? Two people? Okay, so I apologize to the rest of you. This is going to make no sense at all. This is one of the stars of the show, a guy called Thomas Middleditch. The conceit of Silicon Valley is it's a TV show about Silicon Valley in California and the tech startup industry and the ridiculous things that go on there. So naturally, the idea was, if you're going to make a TV show about Silicon Valley, why not make a VR experience of it? It's very sort of self-referential. We could have said, okay, we can do that. How about we just build the house and let you go and play with all their toys? But that comes with a challenge. It's a thing that people like. It's a thing that people are passionate about. And unlike certain Ghostbusters things that have happened, sometimes it doesn't do it justice. Sometimes it does. But we had a whole bunch of challenges. And we're like, how do we make a game out of someone's house? So, very simply, we took fun recurring themes from the series and turn them into a series of challenges. You carry around this little to-do list, and not hot dog only makes sense if you've seen the show. Someone built an app which used AI to identify what it was looking at, and it would only tell you two things: if it was a hot dog or not. Useless. But it got a couple of $1 million worth of funding, so... but this is the set. It's a bungalow somewhere in California. Quite simple. So we went to the set, visited it, took lots of reference photography, found all the little funny little knowing jokes that HBO put into their TV shows referencing their other TV shows, and then built it out basically in Unreal Engine 4, quite simply, then started populating it with objects. There are 743 interactive objects in this experience, and many copies of them. And this is the environment that we created, I think. There's another problem though. Whenever you're dealing with real people and trying to make a digital version of those real people, you end up in this weird territory. This is the uncanny valley. This is a digital face. If you look at it, you can tell it's not real. It's a little bit shiny, maybe a little bit perfect in some of the regions, a little bit symmetrical. And if in CGI for film and TV, we can't get good digital humans, what chance have we got in 14 milliseconds? Not much. The solution is to cheat.
Alright, and action. Seriously, where is Bart Station? Oh, crap, I did it again. Sorry, I keep butt dialing you. I mean, I'm not butt dialing you, I'm doing it with my hands. You can't dial with your butt. Wait a second, I gotta hang up and try something.
The way we got around this was we gave you a mobile phone. So whenever we wanted the cast to interact with you, they would just video call you and yell obscenities at you until you did the thing that you were meant to be doing.
Hello, this is a god. I regret making you.
Oh, thank God, you're home. Okay, good. Look, you're not gonna believe this.
Don't go in the garage.
Hurry the fuck up. Do not touch that. Erlang's gonna be so pissed.
This is a prostitute.
Let's move on.
Tables are made so a person can sit down.
This isn't working out.
So I should again apologize if you haven't seen the TV show. It makes no sense at all. And everything shown in that video is legal in California, so it's okay. Obviously, HBO did quite well out of it. They got a whole bunch of press. And we got to make something that was fun. There was no serious message behind it. There was no factual relevance beyond the physical construction and the created TV show. We kind of got to go run with it by ourselves, which was quite good fun. The last project I'm going to talk to you about is a project we did a couple of months ago for the launch of 3 networks 5G test site at Central St Martin's Fashion College in London. The conceit was that they wanted to create a mixed reality fashion show or a catwalk show. But we've got 700 people in the audience. We don't have 700 Magic Leap headsets to use. So we created a shared experience for the 10 people in the front row, some appropriately selected celebrities. In reality, the biggest challenge for this was that it was a 3-week turnaround. They came to us and went, so we've got 3 weeks until the show goes live, we can't move that. What can you do? And we went, okay, well, because it's mixed reality, you actually save yourself a lot of time. You don't have to build the environment, it already exists. You just build your key assets. And it meant that we were able to throw a bunch of artists at it. The style was sort of 80s, 90s fairground aesthetic, airbrushed, skulls, flames. And 3 were happy. They got their, front cover of whatever magazine pictures of famous people wearing Magic Leap headsets, which does them exactly what they want. The last thing I'm going to talk to you about is, again, for another TV show. They seem to crop up quite a lot, primarily because they have bigger marketing budgets than some other things. Curfew is a TV show with Sean Bean in it. For once, he doesn't die instantly. But it's, loosely speaking, sort of a post-apocalyptic zombie race. I'm going to show you a trailer, I think, and then some behind-the-scenes stuff. Yeah, behind-the-scenes stuff first. We put you in the passenger seat of one of the race cars. So you're sort of the co-driver. You're on the radio, you're navigating, you're helping direct this chase through the countryside whilst trying to avoid jeopardy of some kind. This was, again, a very nice project for us because it had a 9-month duration, which is a long project for us. Normally we get 3 months, that's great. But it meant that we got to go through more traditional development that you would get for a game or a film. We got to investigate the details that would go into this vehicle. We kind of ended up with a vehicle that looks a bit like this. But then we had to create a character to drive the car, to sit next to you and get you to where you're going. This is Eddie. He didn't have a name at this point, so we gave him one. We ended up with somewhere around this guy, kind of. We got a little trailer.
There's one thing everyone who's come out here tonight has in common. Defiance. But it's more than that. You didn't just opt out of the creatures and the curfew, of the rules and restrictions that come with it. You went further than that. You opted in. Now, nothing about this race is easy, but it is going to be worth it. Because at the end of tonight, one team is going to be coming into a place where you can sit out at night and gaze up at the stars. A place without creatures. A place with hope. Good luck, people. Race yourselves free.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Guys, Eddie, are you there?
So that was really good fun, but comes with a massive challenge. Who's done a VR experience where you're driving anything or being moved? Anyone VR experience where you're moving, where you're not physically moving at the same time? Vomit-inducing? Big problem. There are simple ways round this. For instance, we make the vehicle that you're sitting in never move. The car is always here. It doesn't move. Everything that I can touch, everything that I can see of the vehicle is always there. We make the windscreen quite narrow So the majority of your field of view is full of stationary objects. The reason you get motion sickness in a car is the little vestibular system in your inner ear and the lizard part of your brain say, my inner ear tells me I'm moving. My eyes, because I'm reading my book, tell me nothing is moving. There's a disagreement. The disagreement tells your brain that you've probably eaten bad berries, and you should probably throw them up because you're hallucinating, because there is no way in nature that your eyes and your inner ear can disagree. So, as long as you make a large percentage of what you see match what your inner ear is telling you, you don't get motion sickness. So in a car experience, the car should never move. The world moves past you. And thus your brain is able to accept that this could be real, rather than just making you want to throw up. Now for something completely different. Sometimes we get asked to make real things. It doesn't happen very often. Who here has played Warhammer of any kind? Either tabletop miniatures? One guy. Two guys. Excellent. This will make a lot of sense for you. Warhammer started off as a tabletop war game, played with little miniatures, dice, and rulers. And you and some friends battle it out on a tabletop. It also has spawned a quite successful series of video games. And for the launch of Warhammer 40k Dawn of War 3, they came to us and went, can you make one of the weapons from the game, but real? And they asked us if we could build a power fist, which is exactly what it sounds like. We went away, did some maths, doubled it, came back and gave them a number. They went, cool, do it. The main takeaway from this was a little YouTube TV commercial and a bunch of games journalists coming and punching stuff for a day. So I'm just going to show you the trailer, and then we'll talk about some other things completely.
Have you ever wished you had a bigger tool for the job? Straight from the year 40,000, we introduce Power Fist. Want an open plan living space but can't afford to move? Power Fist. Kids out of control? Power Fist. Frustrated by that printer that just won't connect? Power Fist. Power Fist. Power Fist. Fed up with the washing up? Power Fist. Can't shift those tough cake-tone stains? Power Fist. It even makes great fruit salad. Power Fist! The power to get any job done. See it in action in Warhammer 40,000, Dawn of War 3.
So, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that has no relevance at all to VR or AR or XR. But the skills we used to build that, we built it in a real-time engine. We made a model. We built some animations for how it would work to make sure nothing bumped into anything else. We got some friends who run a 3D milling and printing company. We made some 3D models. Can you turn them into a real object and then send them back to us so we can screw them together? We went, yeah, cool. But we did all of our working out in a VR headset. This thing weighs 11 kilos. So you only got to make one. It took a lot of material. So the ability to try these things out in VR headsets first meant that we had a good idea that what we were planning was going to work. So we don't just make VR experiences, we use VR as a tool for ourselves because it saves us time and money. Fruit company. They don't have a VR or an MR headset. They do a lot of AR. And there's this thing, this animated poo. But the technology behind that is called Reality Kit. It's built into all of your modern Apple devices and its ability to facially animate a stupid poo. But that's also built into this system, which has the ability to make 3D objects go behind people and in front of people, because it gives the technology the ability to understand the space that you inhabit. And once the technology for this on a tablet works, and given the acceleration we've had of development from Apple devices, this is a patent from Apple for a head-mounted display. So the things that they're putting into your phone for AR fun at the moment is helping them build software and tools that work on a headset. I don't have an NDA with them, so I can say what I like. But I reckon 2 to 3 years. They say it's not worth paying attention to until it's worth paying attention to. They said the same. That Steve Jobs said that no one would ever want to watch video on a small screen. How wrong he was. And then people like Leap Motion are producing mixed reality user interfaces. So if I'm Samsung and I make mobile phones, or I make televisions that sit on your wall at home and do nothing for 90% of the time, I would be very worried, because every screen you own can be replaced by one pair of goggles. Doesn't matter if they cost 2,000 euros, because I spend more than 2,000 euros on technology on a semi-regular basis. I've got a computer that's worth a lot. My phone's worth 1,000 euros, let alone my TV. My TV's not this big. But with a mixed reality device, my TV can be that big, and it can travel with me. All of our traditional learnings of how to make we're quite good at making 2D interfaces, applications, websites. We've had a lot of practice at it. And all of that's not going to go away. Just because you have spatial technology doesn't mean that our learnings for the past, 40 years of computing don't go away. Because a 2D interface is still just a 2D interface, and it still works in a mixed reality environment. So the idea that everything will change, that the internet as we know it is done, is false. Because it doesn't go away. People still read books. I can tell you do. I read my books on an e-ink display these days. I don't buy books. That's because I travel the world and I can't be bothered to carry them. But I still read books. And I still use the internet. Despite living in the future. I've probably got the best toy box ever at work. I claim to be doing work when I'm using it. But I think mixed reality might be the future of humanity, or at least from our consumer electronics point of view, because it replaces so many devices we already own. So, who here has been to see a famous painting? You know, the Mona Lisa, for instance. Who has been to a big art gallery? Probably most of you, relatively recently. This is what it actually looks like. If you want to go and see the Mona Lisa, you get to stand over there, behind the group of people, and hope there's not a tour bus there at the same time. Because this is as close as you can get. But with mixed reality technology, add a little bit of blockchain in there for digital one-offs, and this is your canvas. It's just a wall. It's just a surface. It can travel with you anywhere. It doesn't have to be constrained to the physical environment or the physical thing. You can get a lot closer to whatever you want. Thank you for your attention.
Algunas preguntas.
Any question? Does anybody have any questions? If not, we can go straight to our panel, and Oliver will be able to participate also in our panel later on. Well, let's move on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vamos a pasar a la...
We're going to move on to our roundtable with our three guests, our three stars, as I said earlier. When we thought, and I'll take some minutes while the set is put on the stage, when we thought from the British Council and Espacio Fundación Telefónica, when we thought about this, we wanted to talk about creativity within this technological revolution, because this deals a lot with a lot of things like video games, but it also influences the way of making art and conveying art, and also to express the conception of art, the inception of art itself. So I will be joined on the stage by Marina Núñez, Eva Davidova, and Pablo Palacios. Please join me here on stage.
Marina, de hecho, conmigo aquí.
¿Ahí?
Sí. Buenas tardes.
Hola. Good afternoon, everyone. I remind everyone that you can send your questions through with the hashtag XRFest, and my dear colleagues will be sending those to my WhatsApp. So let's start with the first round of introductions. For those of you who don't know our guests, I'll start with Pablo. Pablo Palacio comes from the Instituto Stokos. He's a composer. He works with audio images. He has a great repertoire in the field of research as well. He's not only a musician or a traditional musician, because he deals with many other roles. He actually covers a wide fan of opportunities or possibilities, like the use of technology for different uses, for instance, for people with disabilities. And we will talk about this more later. We also have Eva Davidova. She is a multidisciplinary artist, we could say, and she has exhibitions in different centers, like in the MACBA or the Círculo de Bellas Artes, Fine Arts Circle, and she has several works of art that combines the roles or the interactions between animals and human beings on a day-to-day basis. And also she is concerned about the political aspects of the use of technology. And last but not least, we have also Marina Núñez. She is also an artist, and she deals with the concept of the body with anomalies, or the a strange body. She has had exhibition in the Cervantes Institute in Paris and the Alcalá 31 exhibition art gallery. She uses also different digital technologies for producing her art. To start this panel, I would like to ask you why you chose technology to work, because nowadays many artists are testing technology, but at what point did you decide that technologies would be an added value to your artistic work? Whoever wants to start answering? Well, I, as a musician, and like many other musicians nowadays, I had no other choice but to get my hands into technology in order to develop certain abstractions, in order to reach and accomplish certain audio images. I think it's important, if we want to surprise, if we want to have this wow effect, if we are artists, we want to do something different. And there have been several composers in the 20th century that had a mixed background with a scientific experience that translated this experience into an aesthetic experience. And this was one of the drivers. But as a musician, and taking into account that music comes from movement, we can create sounds and music with just a click. But the sound comes from movement trajectory, and this has a lot to do with the topic of the XR Fest and the presentations that we just listen to, because all these technologies have a lot to do with movement. What's the expressivity, the movement that we're capturing, and to what extent this feedback that we are getting, this experience of augmented reality, virtual reality, extended reality, is not only generating marvels in front of our eyes, but also calling us to move. So as a musician, My work has a lot to do with the development of interactive technologies that enhances the presence on the stage and also raises awareness of the bodily experience. I say sometimes that art is the R&D of society. They test the new ideas. So how did you get close to technology? Well, you always find people who inspire you. They tell you, for instance, why don't you do a video, or a company that invited me to try a virtual reality experience. But I also I'm also very much concerned with technology and science fiction. I'm kind of a nerd, and although I'm an artist, I am very bound to sciences, and I find it more exciting to work with computers rather than with paints and with a canvas. I feel very bored when I have to paint. So I wanted to deal with topics related with the cyborg world, for instance. But also, I'm very keen on using computers. So it's been a sort of a combination of both. The software really opens magical possibilities for your art. The world of the FX applied to very interesting contents has always been very attractive to me. So now that we have a software that anyone can buy, the possibility of being able to use the software to create has been quite a magical experience. Obviously, you sometimes think of artists that might not be very much aware of what software is, or they might not be very knowledgeable in programming, but they have got to the point where they have created art asking other artists for help in order to manage all these different technologies that they need to handle to create in these new formats. What has been your experience? Do you have a network of collaborators to produce your art? To me, it has always been very important to try and drill into reality and see what's inside of it, and through the movement, the bodies, the creation of spaces, to find the connections among things connections that we do not see, and strengthen these connections so that we can interact with the world and our own emotions as well. The drive of using technologies was there from the beginning. Well, the first thing I wanted to make was Icarus wings, like Marina's work, but later on I was very much interested in sciences and also science fiction, and I tried to do things just because technologies had a way of being used that were already written down. And I wanted to rewind this and see how these technologies worked and subvert the way they were used in order to create my own time and my own connection with technologies. Little by little, have been creating more and more things, and nowadays I have asked for help, and I have really received it when people liked my ideas. It's true that at this level the use of technology is not a neutral use. You were talking about subverting the use of technology. What about you, Pablo? It has been an excellent tool, hasn't it, for overcoming some barriers like disabilities? And I would like you to tell us a little bit more about the inclusive role of these technologies when we look at them from the arts viewpoint. In the Instituto Stokos is the project that I am co-directing, is a project very much focused in the movement and how to expand movement and translate it into a different sense field, how to make music for the eye, for instance. So we have developed several instruments, so to speak, that in some cases have been within the context of a project for diversity and disabilities. For instance, I was helping in a project with interactive technologies, and previously, as a very interesting experience, we collaborated in a motion composer project that is a tool that allows to translate the sound, translating movement into sound. And this is aimed at people with different disabilities, and this is a very intense experience. And it's also very difficult because at the beginning the results tend to be very positive. For instance, we worked in a school in Dresden where each of the children had a different teacher developing a different language directed at their own particular disability. And you were seeing this diversity among these children that was really impressive. And what was difficult in this case is that when you develop a tool that allows you to create music and has a lot to do with these tools related to virtual reality, you see that there is no haptic response. And from my viewpoint, this is a limitation from the headsets that you're using in this type of augmented realities and extended realities. And it's a disadvantage when you deal with children or people with disabilities because you do not like touching. And in this case, it is an advantage. You can control the sound with just the blink of an eye, or you can create a solid surface that forces you to adjust to it, and therefore this is an advantage for them. And what's difficult is to validate the instruments and actually demonstrate that within a long span of time they can not only be used for entertainment but also for other purposes, let's say more useful or healing purposes. You can make music, you can expand your movement thanks to these technologies, but you need to also consider to what extent these tools can generate a stabilization of a situation of people with disabilities. When you're considering the creation of a work of art, do you have in mind your target audience, and to what extent this conditions your work creation, and also to what extent the medium that you're using is conditioning the message that you want to deliver, because at the end of the day there are certain technical restrictions, and as well as there are advantages, and also some productions cannot reach a great number of people due to the limitation in the number of headsets that allow you to enjoy these works of art. So how do you reach this balance, considering that the artists always wants to reach their audience? In my case, I never think of my target audience. I hope that everyone can see my works of art, but it's true that sometimes when you work on an interactive project, you need to take into account where the work is going to be presented and how many people is going to have access to it and what the context is. Because to me and my projects, context is very important. Maybe it's the political context, broadly speaking, or maybe the specific context of a city, or like in the VR experience that I have brought here, the context of Miami. This was made in a building that I imagine that collapsed, and then the audience is with me constantly while I'm projecting or imagining what the result will be, but I don't ever try to make it easy or too simplistic for them. I agree with Eva's words. We wish that everyone would be our target audience, but obviously you need to take into account the physical limitations. I care a lot about time. My videos are very short. I think that attention has people has a very short spans of attention, so I don't have the need to tell very long stories, but rather very short stories. But even if I wanted to tell long stories, I would use the cinema, for instance. If this is a work of art that I'm preparing for a gallery or a museum, I'm just preparing very short pieces. Nowadays, you find very long videos at exhibitions, and people at the end of the day never watch them in full. So I think there is this thing that you need to consider, the audience that is going to see the work of art, the type of work of art that you are going to make depends on where it's going to be shown. Now, the people are more receptive to videos than to paintings, for instance. I think that it's great that paintings are there and people will feel attracted by paintings. But nowadays, people are more attracted to things that are more interactive, and those videos shown in a very dark room are related to ancient times where things were darker and more private. And my work of art is using videos because I think this is interesting to know about the audiences, what they're interested about. Do you think that the new generations are ready to appreciate art and go and use the screens for other uses that go beyond video gaming? Do you mean if artists use these technologies? I did not get that. No, I mean young people are using VR devices, and to what extent this wow effect that we have talked about so often doesn't overlap the interest in the work of art itself. Well, I think technology really gets old very quickly, so the wow effect lasts very little at the beginning. It's very exciting, and at the beginning, when the cinema was shot in black and white and people came out running from the movie theaters because they were scared, but we have moved a long way since then, and I think that technology has got old very quickly, and it still does. But I think I don't think that anybody has the same experience in a video game and in a Laurie Anderson's work of art, for instance. I don't think they're comparable. I like the wow effect, but I don't think that it really overlaps the interest and the content. I think that we still have to wait, but rather that we're arriving late because our senses are so overwhelmed and the attention is grasped by so many things all the time that we need to really find the spot within technology for other topics that go beyond video games or shopping experiences or reflecting reality or reflecting things that already exist, because this could lead to perception being completely kidnapped by technology. So I think artists need to hurry to penetrate this field and try to make this little islands so that we could build a network of different possibilities within this environment. Something that has been mentioned over the past days is that thanks to the immersive technologies, we had a captive audience that could not watch their mobile while they watch Netflix or do other things. But at the same time, what you're saying is that we can be hostages to these new technologies. What would you say about this, Pablo? I think this is quite true. I was remembering a wonderful book by Francis Yates that is entitled The Art of Memory. The imagination is memory, and memory is pure imagination. There's a heritage, a legacy that we need to nurture, and that needs to be within ourselves. And in this sense, I would make the difference between entertainment and art. I think the Americans have this very clear in their minds. Michael Jackson used to talk about himself as an entertainer. And it's true, the entertainment can be a pastime, it can be constructive, but you need to think if it's really adding value to you. When the entertainment is over, do you feel better? Do you feel better about yourself, or do you feel somewhat anxious? And I think this is a very interesting experience, and that has to do with a deep perception of a work of art that transforms you, and maybe you're also transforming the work of art. Yesterday I was in Athens visiting the Acropolis, and you see people looking at it and you wonder, what are you looking at? If you really do not have any idea about what happened here, what's missing here, there's something that is missing in your experience. And I think that all these technologies do not make us hostage and do not grab more from us than what they give us. And I think this is something that we really need to reflect on, and also from the point of view of the movement, things that we think are very much related to the way we move around in this world. So we need to think to what extent these technologies are pushing to develop the way we move and make us flow better, or are making us more uniform among all of us. So what type, beyond the gem work that you might carry, that you might make, what type of movement is this technology moving us to do? I think that it's very important to profit from new technologies in order to create new ways of moving and acting, and not to repeat what has already been created. First create the fantasy of doing something and then doing it later. We have had the opportunity of interviewing Tamara Roja, that due to the creation of a new version of Giselle, had created an extended version that complemented the Giselle version, where they investigated, that researched into a new language of this work that moved the piece beyond the stage. And several companies are using these tools not only at a narrative level, but also in other ways. For instance, some are researching how, before they can set the stage, the artists wear these headsets, these virtual reality headsets, and they can start rehearsing the work without having the stage really set up, but only in their headsets. There are some tools that we have that allow us to recover a certain memory. We can see, if for instance the Mona Lisa were burnt, we can still see it very closely. But as artists, technology advances so quickly that in 3-4 years the tools that we're using, the devices that we're using, will almost be outdated. If you generate a work of art for a specific device, don't you fear that this work might become not obsolete, because it will still make sense, but will be not accessible anymore? But yes, I have to agree that technologies are more innovative than the concept itself. What we see is that not the dimensions or the logic or the perspective really change from the real world in these technologies. I think this is not surprising. The old maps help us incorporate new technologies within this new environment, but this is the first work that I do with these technologies, and it's quite conventional as well. But I think that people are working on a daily basis in this. I feel that they find new they might find new ways of relating to space, but I haven't seen this up till now.
Los artistas que en su inmensa mayoría son totalmente analógicos, y lo sé porque además de porque tengo compañeros de artistas, porque soy profesora.
Sorry, this is what happens, and artists are analogic, and my students really don't like computers, so they're thinking about new generations being digital native. That's totally false. I'm more digital than they are, and I cannot convince them that it's more interesting. So they have no idea. So when someone who has no idea about anything technological is making a video, they will do the video, but they don't know what a compression codec is. So the artist has not the little bit of preservation. I say again and again that it's a master, so at least it's a technology easy to preserve as video, and they can do that, because when people had DVDs, maybe they had big resolution DVD, but the program was obsolete, they have not saved it in big images, and it has a pathetic resolution of a DVD on a compression code that they did not what it was. That's from artists. Regarding museums, the big ones have curators who maintain that, and they decide to preserve that, which is a huge work. But many of the centers, the same thing. They buy a video, they don't know if you give them a master or not. You don't know how they preserve it, and the works are going to be lost. Or it's going to have to be an archaeological task that it will not even be worth it. So either the artist does it or the center does it, and if not, this will be lost. With this new virtual technology, I'm not have it so controlled, but with the previous one, like video, it's a total disaster. Yeah, I've seen that with video art and artists and VHS back in the day, that some of them were able to leave to DVD, Blu-ray and so on, but as you were saying, maybe we would have to invent digital archaeology in the future. What do you think? It's fun, because this very morning I was reading an article, a narration about net art, but they were talking about any technological art from the 50s until now, and it said preservation is very easy. Everything will have to be redone. But there are huge departments in museums, institutions, in New England, curators of technological works. For instance, Rafael Lozano Hemet has a very interesting book about it, and there are serious people working on it, but works that you don't get out in 10 years from the box. And maybe you cannot find people who can understand that code or how the circuits were joined. And the worst thing is that with program obsolescence, the very hard drives, if I get my hard drive from 2001 and try to plug it to my computer, both of them laugh a lot, but separately. There's no bridge. In your case, Pablo, I think it's a very interesting thing, and I think it has kind of two sides from my point of view. A bad one and a good one. I'm going to start with a bad one. In our case, each piece that we develop, each instrument, we develop original software, right? And it's true that we work with Apple, and it's a nightmare because it's a company that is going to build cell phone devices to watch movies, and maybe to have a captive user extract biometrical data for their research. And it's true that when an operating system changes, it's a nightmare to update it. So each part or each instrument is really very much associated to one computer, to a specific machine, to a specific operating system. And we try, and it's something that has a due date. When we go to art and technology lectures, there's always talk about this. So in that sense, I'm going back to the book that I was talking about it with you before. Well, I think the book as such is a perfect technological object which lasts a lot more. But technology on the side may help to preserve cultural heritage, global or European or whatever. And what it was done in the last European project where we participated, cooperated, we were partners with many institutions, also coordinate an interaction man-machine. It's a holodance project to develop creative technologies for education and creation of dancing. And one of the legs of the project, sort of as big, was preservation of European dance. Different styles, Greek traditional dancing, classical dancing, contemporary dancing, and flamenco as well. Although the group that was in charge, it was not us, it was Coventry's, a group from Coventry. And in that case, technology is really helping to preserve and to understand, because we have different styles with high motion capture techniques of high level, and that allows not yet to maintain the heritage in a repository that in not so long will be public and you will be able to consult, but that you can understand it. So there are a number of, and we work with VR techniques to be able to learn ballet, as you were talking about the example of Giselle. And there's an important future there in order to prepare reposition and to prepare the setting up of classical works. Yeah, it's key to prepare digital post-memory. In that sense, we have exactly 3 minutes. So I'd like to leave this open to the public and people looking at us for watching us from home. So if you want to ask questions, because I still have tons of them. No questions? Okay, so I'm going to continue with something that we were talking about preservation at the end of the work. We're talking about artificial intelligence, yes, but especially intellectual property. Intellectual property is something that comes back and again from time to time, and especially with the introduction of new tools as 3D painting, space composition, that are patented by big companies that quite often keep part of the rights of the very works. In the case of Cougar with Chimbras, the artist, the author of the works, is not the full owner of his or her work. So this is an element that, does this worry you from the ethical point of view, or you are just looking for other ways, other technologies that would guarantee full intellectual property in your case? Or maybe you don't care at all. Well, I will close what I mentioned about holodance. Before in this project, we invited many dancers and so on, in many cases high-level first dancers from big companies, but also quick dancers to capture movement. And when you capture movement, what you have is a cloud of points. It's no longer video. So it was quite a delicate thing that we talk about with a lawyer who was expert on intellectual property rights, and suddenly that was a bit turmoil, because there was nothing planned. And yeah, there was in this project, there was an animation company working with the industry, with the light and magic industry. So all fragmentation, all those videos may be susceptible to be used and to generate a lot of money. So what's the identity? Because you see points, a creation, an animation movie, and you can see that movement. So from the one side, there was a huge turmoil, and then one of the objectives of the repository we wanted to create was that anyone could add movements. So the fact that was not clear, as it was not clear in general in the cases you talked about, that gave a limitation when feeding this moves repository. If it's not clear what the industrial property is, if we're going back to the collective, if the big contribution of Western civilization, which is the individual as someone with full rights, and we are a bit maybe too degregated from the collective, but it's good to know that. I'm not really worried about it because I copy a lot. I mean, I never was worried about this, but it's true that other artists were not artists. Of course, they can read from the intellectual property rights, and that's obvious. So there are different systems, which is not right management companies, which is Creative Commons and things like that, that you can choose, okay, I don't mind if a general user uses this, but if a company uses that, they have to pay. So they cannot steal and you give rights to whatever you want to give rights. And there are some legal tools that you can apply all the way to conventional, to images you upload in your website or videos in your website. But with new technologies, the new technologies, I no longer know how it is. But I know that there are people having legal systems like Creative Commons to provide rights to whoever you want. And the companies who keep the work of the image, even if it's not an art of work like Facebook, that decide that they can keep everything you upload and use it to whatever purpose, I cannot stand them. I think that's very worrisome that society would allow that. And not only that it would allow it, but it goes straight in, okay, what can we do? Which is what everyone says. I have no Facebook account, and this is one of the reasons, because you're totally like, how come you don't have Facebook? Because it's intolerable. It's not that you don't have it, it's that it doesn't have you. Yeah, it's intolerable that they can have it. I agree with both of them, and for me it's a concept thing. It's very important. The fact that digital is so volatile and it's all over the place, and we have it, but we don't have it. It could be a great opportunity to go to the collective and creation, to be able to create something and not to get a medal and a pat in the back. But we're facing kind of a smashing system that takes ideas, patents ideas. As we know, there are gins that have been patented. There are words patented. Soon we will not be able to use our own habits because someone will have it patented for something. So you have to fight this. I know there are a lot of methods of protection of industrial property rights, especially artists selling properly. There are ways through internet companies, a number of things, but for me it's a good moment to think about the base of everything. We are nearly out of time. I would like to thank our guests from tonight who provide a few headlines, and you can watch this on replay with us. So thank you all, and let's hear it for them.
Y justo ahora pues hemos...
So we have inaugurated this fest with the Fermiraeus and his extended body, and we are going to have another sample of extended body. Now is with the artist, digital artist, electropop artist Chagall, who comes from London. She's been in London, and she has a Dutch origin, and she has presented her works in different festivals like Sonar, Southwest, and other important samples in this sense. And today she's going to introduce exclusively works that allows to combine from the perspective of movement with her Mimo gloves, that she's going to explain how it works, but everything from creativity, from the visual point of view, from the background that is going to project and that also interact with her movement. As we change the set, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the whole team that was able to create and to have all of us here, from the technical team, interpreters, sign interpreters as well, that you can follow from home, and the whole team that made this possible from Fundación Telefónica and British Council. So when we finish, I'm going to give you Chagall. I remind you that you can talk about this and all previous works through our hashtag, and we are going to be in contact with through the website Chagall
No? Ah, okay, of course. Mientras Chagall se prepara.
While Chagall gets ready, we still have available our guest. So if you have a question, now is the time more than ever. Okay, we have a question. So let's take the opportunity. I love to hear you. I see that you are right on technology. So just a big reference about industrial property or intellectual property. I found out about this, many things. And the first thing is to understand that industrial property is not possible to have it at planet level. Second, industrial property rights, the first one is from author, and no one can take that away from you. You can publish something on Facebook or whatever you want, and they take your picture, but you are the author. Is an author right is the first one. You have all the broadcasting rights, all the exploiting rights, and all the rights. There are four main rights. So the advice I provide artists is for them to get recorded in different industrial property rights at national and international level. If you're going to the internet, you're going to find it properly. The curious thing is that there's more protection if you pay more. There's less protection if you pay less. And if you go to China, there's no protection whatsoever because the patent and trademarks law does not exist. Anything can be copied. Thank you. So comments about it? If you want to comment with the microphone. Yes, I think the China case is clear because East works in a different way. I think that, just to go back to a comment that you made about intellectual property, this has to be made relative because we would have to adjust in many cases and depending on disciplines. For instance, I work a lot for dancing, composing for dancing, and we produce parts. So how the author, and this is a very specific one, comes from the one who actually signs as the author, because sometimes we ourselves, we are a number of things together. From a long time ago, this liberal idea of the man-made. Okay, you made a spoon. So there are many things coming from many places, and in case of dance, even now working with dancers, it's a co-creation. It's something that is generated with the different people, and I believe that's a very important point, not just how to preserve that, but are you preserving your own or are you preserving something else? That you were saying before, right now, with all these gymnasium choreographers, that it seems that it happens in yoga, Bikram yoga, they have a recorded movement because they were like notes of a melody, and they have sorted out, and that's amazing from a technique that has thousands of years. It is fully capitalized. And talking about that, we have all that part of protection that goes with the possibility of hacking those works. Is that something you worry about, or that you just think that it's fully open? Some artists decided and said they can hack my works, but that's because they're going to recreate that. That is something alive within the digital world, and it's okay. So what do you think about that? As I was saying, if the public is going to use it, if artists are going to use it to have a recreation, it's not going to be plagiarism. It depends on who does it. I think it's wonderful. And if they hack you, it's because they like you and you're visible, so it's not that bad. But of course, if does it a big company that has tons of money and you're just surviving and getting by, then it's not good. But if it's a public of users, normal users, I took small seconds from documentaries from National Geographic for video. Very much manipulated, of course, but I cannot have a video of a microscopic organism in the middle of the ocean. So it's quite customary to get things from here and there and use it for your own works. I think depending on who, it doesn't matter. It's okay if they hack you. Initially, I agree the same as you. I think the same as you do, but it has happened to me that someone has used my works for theirs, and then they put my name on top of it. So it was kind of a mix. And I didn't like that at all. So I think it depends, like in many other cases, depending on how it is. It could be wonderful that people hug you and they use your works by other artists or writers or whatever, everything. And it could be also very sad to see the sense of your work or you wanted to project to be totally distorted. So it depends. So that's a wonderful closing. To give the floor to Chagall, the British Council Director, on Tuesday, inaugurating it, said that the future could be wonderful or very dark. It depends on what we do with it. So right now, I leave you with Chagall, who's going to present her technology on how wonderful the future may be from her perspective. So let's hear it for Chagall.
Hola.
Hello.
We have, except for foods. Can we have my? Oh, we have me on the screen. Hi. My name is Chagall, and I'm a musician and a performer. And usually I just go to places to play my music. But today I also would like to share a little bit with you how I came to perform music this way and how I work, and then I will illustrate that a little bit with some music, and then at the end I will play a few songs so you see like a part of the show. And then not something that I usually do, but I'm noticing that people here have a lot of thoughts and a lot of questions, so then I would love to open up the floor for a short while, and then you can ask me anything that you want. Well, not anything, but related to anything that you've seen or heard. So let's start with the beginning. I'm a musician. I grew up in a house where we heard a lot of music, and I really loved, as a small child, I loved classical music. I was literally in love with Mozart. So much so that when my dad told me that we couldn't go to a concert, Mozart concert, because Mozart has been dead for years, that I was really, really upset. But that was my first love, and then I loved jazz, Ella Fitzgerald, and then later Björk, James Blake, and all of the great musicians. So it was only much later, when I was already making music as a teenager and starting to compose a little bit, that I realized that you can use computers to make music. And not only do computers give you all of the creative freedom that you can imagine, because all of the sounds that you can imagine, you can get out of a computer. But also, it gave me, I immediately noticed that it gave me lots of independence, because if I learned how to use a computer myself to make my music myself, I wouldn't need anyone else, no producer or other person, to explain what the music in my head sounded like, and then for them to make it. So I started learning how, I taught myself basically from about 2011 how to make music electronically. And that was a real discovery, and it was really great. But when I had to perform this music, it usually looked like this. I was bent over my computer, behind a table with full of knobs, and then I would be singing a bit like la la la, but then mostly looking down. And what I really missed, and I think that the audience also really missed, is that there was no connection anymore, because I was so focused on the technology that I had to use that I was just looking down, and I was completely obsessed with this, and this was gone. And my songs are very personal, and I hope that I will make you feel something too. But I had a really hard time making people feel anything when I was not looking at them, and not being able to perform with my face and with my body. But luckily, I wasn't the only person in the world with this problem. Hello. Next. Oh, wait. Oh, the image is gone again. Huh? I don't know what that means. Do I need to do default for display? Oh, yeah, there we go. We're back. Yeah? The next one has sound, so you might want to turn that channel on. This is a brilliant lady. She's from the UK, and her name is Imogen Heap. She makes electronic music too, but it always has been very innovative. And in 2010, she realized that she had this problem too, that she felt like she wasn't giving the audience as much as they deserved. And she decided that she wanted to make a controller, an instrument that was connected to her body and let her be on stage while performing all of this music. So she gathered a whole team of engineers and software developers and designers, and they came up with the Mimi Gloves. This is a video of her showing a really early prototype, and this video for me, I think, was the first encounter. I just saw this on the internet and thought it was amazing. So, yeah.
I've been developing these beautiful gloves.
Oh, it's gone again.
That help me gesturally interact with my computer so that I can...
Oh, that's so weird.
I've been developing these beautiful gloves that help me gesturally interact with my computer so that I can make music on the move, in the flow, and more humanly, more naturally engage with my computer software and technology. So here they are. This is the latest one. This is an earlier one, and these are many other iterations.
Okay. Can we get the pictures back? It's not that important, really. I'm going to play you some music that's more important than the pictures. It's just cutting out. Let me just quickly give you a very brief explanation of how they work. So embedded in the fabric of the fingers are sensors that measure how bent... Oh, I'm actually playing you a song secretly. That measure the bend of your fingers. So when it's straight, it's 0, and then when I bend the finger, it's 1, and all the numbers in between are measured too. And then there's a sensor on the wrist here that's measuring this movement, and this movement, and this movement. And then all of that movement data is sent over Wi-Fi to a router that's there behind my laptop. And then in the software that kind of is the brain behind these gloves, we make connections between all of these different movements. And we also have some AI algorithms that can learn what postures you're making. I think the best way to explain it to you is by just doing something. I actually need this guy. So it's not only measuring the slow movements, but it's also measuring peaks. So now I'm gonna flick both of my wrists, and then we're gonna hear a drum beat start. There we go. Okay, and then those algorithms that I was talking about, they can recognize specific postures that I make with my hands, so I can turn things on and off. So I'm gonna make this posture that we call secret finger. I think Imogen came up with that. And now I have control over the volume of these synthesizers. So the lower my hand goes, the louder they get. And I can put them back. I can come back on. So if I stop making that posture, then that control goes. But let's leave them in. And then here I've got a bass sound. And then the further I move to the right, the more of a filter there is on the bass. You hear that different? And then when I do a one finger point up, it's gonna start dancing faster. live things, like my voice. So when I'm gonna point to my left, I'm gonna loop my voice. But I hope that you see that not only is it more fun for me because I can dance around and I'm like literally playing with my sounds and with my music, but I hope also for you electronic music in that way makes a little bit more sense because you can see it being created in the spot, and electronic music, electronic sounds and effects get sort of a physical presence, which I think is pretty cool. Where was I? Yeah, this is how the gloves work, but the demo just always works better. This is kind of like this is a black screen. I just wanted to talk to you about how they work a bit more, but it's not that important really, because hello, is this me? Oh yeah, this is where I want to talk about. So, I joined the Mimi team in 2014 when they were already pretty developed. I've mostly been working on the software for the past few years, but this video I posted on Instagram the first night I ever got to take one glove home with me. And to me it's a very special video because you immediately see that I have some sort of physical reaction to how I'm controlling these sounds. And this is super interesting. Whenever anyone puts these gloves on, you immediately can tell how that person imagines music, what music looks like in their head. So, for example, me, oh, come on. This will be so sad when I actually play the show and this is not working. Yeah, there is. Okay, it's very short videos, hopefully. Oh no. So that is like the simplest setup ever. It's just 3 notes, but I'm making like these really dramatic movements, which I think says a lot about my character. But everyone who's ever put these gloves on, they all move different. And the beautiful thing about this system is that you, as an artist, you decide what movements you want to use for which sounds. And so for me, what's been mostly interesting for the last few years using this system and creating this show is that my shows are not solely about music anymore. it's also about movement. It's about visual, and especially the movement side for me has been a real innovation in my own work, because I never thought about how I was moving my body on stage, and now I have to, because I make sound with it. I think you're looking at the wrong one, because yeah, it's okay. So this is the first song that I made with the gloves, and it's called Sappho Song. Wait, where is it? There it is. This was the day I made this, the day after that video that you just saw. So I'm a singer, and as a solo performer, without any backing vocals, I experimented a lot with putting harmonies, using a harmonizer on my voice. And but one of the frustrating things with that was always is that you sort of are set in one mode or one key, instead of you can change key or scales or something like with any normal song. So I started experimenting using my movement to control different kind of musical elements of this hardware harmonizer. It's over there. You don't have to see it, but it is there. So what I first tried is to just control the volume of these harmonies. So I went that was already really fun. So I spent like half an afternoon just and I had a little book on my table with poems by ancient Greek poet Sappho. So I started borrowing some of her words and sort of like kind of jamming, but with these gloves. So what I was just saying, that usually it's very tricky to change within electronic instruments to change musical elements like the scale. But now all I had to do was to go from major to minor, minor to major. So this sort of inspired a whole melody that I would have never written had I not had this instrument. So it was pretty exciting. I wanna kind of play you the whole song, but I want to get out of these and start these. Is it there? Oh, my mouse is in the middle. Oh no. There's really... So every time the projector gets disconnected, my app crashes. So it's a bit sad. I mean, I can play it without the visuals, I guess. I'll just leave this one, and it might be flickering behind me. Okay. So you know all of the tricks in this song now. So all you have to do is watch, I guess, the movement interpretation and like how, together with the choreographer, we imagined like the right movement to express like any other deeper stuff in this song. Okay. To me the man who sits across from you is a God. He listens carefully to your delicious voice and your laughter. And if I meet you suddenly, my tongue breaks up and I can't speak. A thin flame runs under my skin. There's only noise, can't see a thing. Cold sweat rushes down on me. I'm paler than the grass, drying, oh yes it seems. I'm dying, 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 and dying. Thank you. Oh, it's going way too fast. Okay, well, we got that message. So what am I doing at the XR Fest? I am, wait, I just don't want to have any effects on my voice right now. So, what I hope is what I'm doing with these performances is that I'm making electronic music more engaging, more meaningful, and give like new layers to my personal expression, and also mostly to just keep audiences in that moment and connect them more with what I'm creating at that moment. So what I'm doing on stage, I also wanted to try to do with recorded music. So last year I embarked on a big mission to create my own VR experience. Sometimes you can see I can see it on the screen. It's called Yu-Gi-Oh! Cave, and it's an experience where you're sort of get really close to me while I'm singing a song that I will play for you in a little bit. Yeah, it came into Raindance Film Festival and we got nominated, really great. But what mostly happened is while we were making, with mostly the same team that we make the show with, we were using a motion capture suit with 15 sensors all over my body to give me presence in this VR space. And what I'm going to start this Monday is the creation of a new show where I'm wearing this suit next to the gloves. And all of the visuals will take place in Unity, a game engine that a lot of VR is made in. So you will be able to experience the show live in the room while the visuals are projected, but the visuals will also all take place in VR, so they can be watched at a different time, or maybe at the same time. I'm not sure yet, because I need to still make it all. But hopefully I'll be back here next year with this new thing. And then I wanted to end my talky bit with this black thing. There it is. It's a little flute. Once upon a time, this flute was a very special piece of technology. It still is, but yeah, that was like super high-tech 40,000 years ago. And according to archaeologists, this flute is sort of proof why we, as Homo sapiens, survived here in Europe, and why we kind of won from the Neanderthals that are... Oh, I started a song. Why we won from the Neanderthals that were already living here in Europe when we came here from Africa. Because we had music, we had culture, and we had art that connected us and brought us together and made us want to fight for each other, made us want to care for each other, and that's what made us stronger as a group. And I think that music still does that. And this is why we love going to concerts, because we come together, we're there, present for the creation of music that we love. And this is something that is very present in acoustic music, where you can see that people play instruments, and in electronic music, I still think we have some way to go, but this is definitely what I'm always keeping in mind, and I hope that you will feel some of that. Okay, I am going to play some music, but I really want to fix this screen, because otherwise, let me see if I quit this, if that will help anything. Oh yeah, and the camera, thank you. Let's see if we can keep it going. I also have no idea what kind of time I should be keeping by, because we started late. Oh, wait a minute, yeah. What do you want to look at this? We can also restart the computer if you think that helps. We can also do the Q&A now, if that makes sense. Yeah? If anyone has a question already? Don't have to. Yeah? There is one. Do you need a microphone? Okay. Huh? There is one. No. Oh. Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
How is important for you? Have you talked a bit about the choreography? How is important for you the movement? How you think about en español puedo decir?
No, but I think you're trying. To ask me: am I thinking about the movement while I'm already composing, or am I thinking about movement while making music, or no?
It's about the concept and the music. You change the movement in each song, or is always your style of movement? No. It's together.
Yeah, so I'll explain a bit how we make each song. So I compose a track just by myself in the studio, not always completely by myself. I work with another producer sometimes too, but I make music without the gloves on. So I compose usually just in a normal way. And then I make a mapping for the gloves where I'm sort of in the most basic way playing all of these sounds, but just really like a person in the airport, you know, sort of really not nice, but just I make it work. And then I go into rehearsal space with a choreographer and art director, and we kind of come up with the visual and the movement at the same time. So we go in really deep, like, what is this song about? What do we want people to feel? What am I feeling? And then it's like really psychological kind of session. And then we kind of turn those movements, that basic movements that work, we turn those into movements that make sense for the story or for the emotion. And also we have to do it in a way that I can do it because I'm not a dancer. But it's definitely, it's funny because like a few years ago when I started doing this, I was very uncomfortable about moving, and it's becoming, you know, I wouldn't be able to play any of these songs if I wasn't moving anymore. So it's also learned me to be more comfortable about like my body, which is really interesting. And now with the new project, it's going to be even more important because we're not only tracking my hands now, we're going to track everything, which is really exciting and scary. And but yeah, we'll see. Was that a sufficient answer? Okay. I can see it still flicking on and off. Is there another question? I'm sorry we're doing it this way. It's much better if you just see the songs first.
Yes, you mentioned earlier that you wrote part of the code for the gloves.
Yeah.
I was wondering, when you started dancing, is the dance influencing the code you're writing now?
I'm not sure if it necessarily is the movement, but because I'm using the gloves in the real world all the time, it's definitely, there's so much in the program that's there because, well, not just me, also Imogen and a few others who've been using the technology on stage. There's so much in there that's, well, really the whole app is based on real life experience. So it's really made by users, and that's, I think, why it's really good, because it just does what I think it should be doing and how I need it. But the movement specifically, I think so, because certain sensitivities that you think are fine when you're sitting behind your desk are not the same when you're moving around on the stage. And also things like things getting hot or sweaty, all those kind of things you can only know if you do them in the real world. So basically, Imogen and me and those few other people, we've been sort of road testing this for a few years now. But now, finally, we're finished the design, and now we're releasing them commercially this summer. So that's super exciting.
Thank you.
Shall we just restart the computer? I think that might be a good idea. Yeah? Okay. Oh. But also, I just wanted to, it's not good for the application if the connection gets disconnected all the time? Or is that not happening? Okay. It's weird then. Sorry, guys. Turn it back on. I saw a question.
Do you have any background in engineering or design or something like that?
No. I studied history in the university. I was always in love with music and I always made music, but I thought if I go to a conservatory it will become, I don't know, I didn't want it to become like this serious thing with competition and stuff because I loved it so much. And then, you know, I couldn't deny where my true passion was, so that's why I kept making music. And technology was always like an interest. And I do wish now maybe I should have studied like computer science instead of history, but you never know. And no, so I'm just I'm faking it till I'm making it, which is what everyone should do. Oh, it's so weird that the flute is still there. I don't understand. But yeah, it's there for 40,000 years on this screen. Okay, please. This is making everything to me feels upside down right now, because I usually just want to come on the stage and not talk about the technology at all, because I do really think it's about the art and about the music and the expression and the feeling and the connecting. So I definitely feel a little bit weird right now, but I hope we can. I don't know. I don't understand why it's black again. I mean, otherwise we have to do it without the visuals, but it's just a shame. Oh, okay. It's just flicking on and off the screen. No, I don't think it's working. Okay. Oh. Let's just turn it off, and I'm just going to play some music, okay? I'm really sorry. I don't know why this is happening. Okay, let's just turn it off, and then and let's get rid of this, because it's making you think that I'm using it. It's really a shame, but yeah. Can we turn it off? Just trying it one more time, just in case. Huh? You gonna reconnect it again? Okay. Oh. Then I will definitely crash. I mean, HDMI cables break, it's okay. I don't think. Shall we? Can you just turn it off? Yeah, but I don't think it is. Okay, but I just don't want to start playing and then it's gonna go on and off, because then you'll get distracted. Okay. I do see the cursor on the screen. No, it's not working. Can we please turn the projector off? I just want to make music now. Thank you. Can we turn the light down a little bit too, to get a bit more? Can we turn it off, please? Thank you. Okay. Turn the lights down a little bit, and I'm gonna play a song now. It's called Hidden. flowers on every tree. Peace comes to them on quiet feet, but it doesn't come to me. Come to me. Come to me. I just listen to his heartbeat right under my cheek. I hear it, so it must be in there. It's so hard to see. I just listen to his heartbeat. I just listen to his skin. I just listen to his heartbeat. I just listen, yeah, to his skin. How warm the air feels to my skin, and the trees the crickets sing. Peace comes to every living thing, but it doesn't come to me. Come to me, and I just listen to his heartbeat right under my cheek. I hear it, so it must be in there. It's so hard to see. I just listen to his heart. I just listen, yeah, to his skin. I just listen to his heartbeat. I just listen, yeah, to his skin. His face is hidden with his face to his song and keys. To his skin, lost in a lonely place. Will it ever be in me? Be in me? Thank you. Ooh, okay. I'm not going to say anything about the visuals anymore. This song is shorty. Love. you. Do you have time for one more? Which one shall I do? Okay. The last song I'm going to play is called Diva Unchained. It was on my first EP. It's called Stray Flux. And the song is about it's about creative freedom, basically, and connected to personal freedom. I was once signed to a big label where I was making pop music as a pop artist, and they were really trying to make me write a hit, and that kind of made me stop writing anything. And they really liked calling me a diva. And when I got out of this, I felt like a new person, and I started doing my own stuff, and now I make music technology that's changing people's lives and the way that they work. And I'm traveling all around the world and doing my own stuff, so I'm now a diva unchained, and that's what this song is about. I just want to check one thing, and where is it? Okay. Thank you so much for being so patient. Here it goes. Love's has all there is to himself. Standing well, look at you now. Just look at you now. Love's egg, come and sit down. Oh, love, I want it right now. I want it right now. Thank you. Thank you.
A Chagall, que tiene de todo salvo una diva, porque por los...
For all the bad time that we have given her, she has acted like a real diva. She had sorted out everything so fine. Let me remind you that all the contents of this festival will be available on the website in Espacio Fundación Telefónica. Thank you very much to everyone for being here today. Keep dreaming, keep creating the future, and let's see each other next year.